What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Steve, other than some microphone issues I'm experiencing here on my end, I'm doing well. So if I sound different on the podcast today, I'm currently going no microphone, so just free balling it.
Yeah, we decided to spare the viewers the low humming sound that was coming through for some reason.
Yeah, hopefully this doesn't have any unintended consequences that we don't hear that come through on the recording.
Yeah, let's hope not. But
other than that, yeah, good. Coming up on Thanksgiving week here. Going to be a different type of Thanksgiving for, I think, most of us, but always excited to have 3 football games on a Thursday.
Yeah, so we're going to be recording our start-sit episode a little early. Try to get it out a little bit early since we got some earlier games happening on Thursday. We are going to be recording next week's start-sit episode also early. That one is more because I don't even think I told you, Will. I'm supposed to pick up my dog on Wednesday.
Nice. Well, I know you were trying, you're filling out applications and such to adopt a dog, and I hadn't heard anything definitive, so that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're getting, one's actually coming from Lebanon.
So you're getting multiple dogs?
No, just one. Just one. But there's multiple dogs coming for the rescue.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so Wednesday at some point we're going to go pick them up, which would make recording difficult. So I will apologize now if there's future barks in some of the episodes, because I don't think I'm going to have much control over that for the initial little while.
Yeah, for anyone on their bingo sheet who had week 13 barking, get ready to mark that one off.
Yeah.
We'll have this week and next week bark-free likely.
Yeah, I'll have to mute myself a lot more to try to stop it, because I won't be able to edit that out.
Yeah. Are you in like a specific room where your computer setup is there, or is this like a living room?
No,
thing?
Yeah, it's right in the living room.
Gotcha.
Partially because I got the virtual reality setup that's hooked up to the compuer, and I need that here. And
nice.
We've decided that the dog's crate, they'll be crate trained initially, is going to be right next to the computer. So, yeah,
Dangerous.
Yes, we'll see what happens. Speaking of dangerous, nice little pivot here, Will. You got a stressful game tonight, don't you?
That I do. I've actually got 2. You see the one in our work league here up by 5 or 4.5 points in the half PPR. I've got Josh Reynolds, Chris Godwin, and the defense for the Rams. And my opponent, our roommate Jack, has Tom Brady and Cooper Kupp. So going to be an interesting one. My play of hoping that Reynolds, is going to be able to take a little bit of the Kupp role with the injury is really going to hopefully pan out. I think that's going to be the big thing. If Reynolds can outperform Kupp, I think I've got a chance at Godwin and the defense against Brady.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for you for sure.
Another one that unfortunately looks less likely because of the very end of the game last night. I think it was up by a few points, but the late Kelsey touchdown on top of the extra point now put me down by 10 with Mike Evans and Robert Woods versus Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. So just going to need to get the touchdowns to fall my way there as well.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So two interesting games here coming down to this night game.
So I was looking ahead in our work league, Will, and you may play a crucial role in my fate. Week 13, so we start our playoffs week 14. I face the last place team. You face the current second seed. We're about to enter what is likely to be a 3-way tie for first place. So if you win that game and I win, then you could catapult me into a bye. I
may need some help from you as well, because you got the 6th. I'm in 7th place right now, barring how this ends, and you got the 6th place team next week, and I've got the last place team. So
yeah,
you want to scratch my back next week?
I know, right?
Quid pro quo with the week after. Week 13.
The issue with my team is I never really noticed, but I'm actually one of the lower teams in points for.
Yeah.
I think there's like 4 teams ahead of me or something, because I've had some terrible weeks where I've scored like in the 80s. And for for a gauge, I'm about to put up 132. 120 is kind of the average, and I've been putting up the 80. So my scores are really low. I'm really boom bust.
Yeah, I mean, you're only 25 behind second place point-wise, though. So you guys will still be close.
Yeah, he's going to pull away a little bit in this one because he's putting up $1.60.
Yeah, that'll hurt.
Yeah.
And only 2 weeks left to make up the points, but yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It will be close. Yeah, you ready? That out of the way. You want to jump in the waivers?
Yeah, let's get it going.
So returning from bye this week, we have the Bills, the 49ers, the Bears, and the Giants. Will, you want to go over the Thanksgiving Day games?
Yeah, we've got a decent little slate here. Houston and Detroit. Seems like a nice little appetizer game that maybe have some fantasy relevance given that both defenses aren't so hot. Then we have a nice divisional matchup with Washington and Dallas, which could have implications on a playoff berth given that the NFC East, no one wants to win it. We now have a 3-6-1, and then what it amounts to be 3-7 teams.
Yeah, that division's pathetic,
this division
man.
is wide open with 6 games to go.
Yeah, that is. The 49ers are 4-6, last in their division, and they'd be leading, and it's terrible. It's just, oh man,
it's crazy. I just was listening to one Eagles podcast, and they were breaking down how the Eagles are likely going to lose the next 5 games, 4 games, come in on a 6-game losing streak with a win and you're in situation at 3-10-1, because they've got the Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints, and then the Cardinals the next 4. 2-game losing streak going into that. So you could fall to 3-11-1 or 3-10-1, but then they have the Cowboys and the Giants, and that's what it's going to come down to.
I never really thought about this before, probably because scenarios like this really don't occur too often. But if, say, the Eagles make the playoffs and say they're, whatever, they've got 5 wins, does the fact that they make the playoffs push their draft pick up to like the rest of the playoff teams, or does it default to record?
Nope, that's exactly what they're talking about. Literally, right now, the winner of the NFC East with the new playoff amount, the worst team that makes the playoffs, worst record that loses in the first round, will have the 19th pick.
Yeah, so you would have the terrible season, but not the benefit of the high pick because of that terrible season.
Because you go to the playoffs, whereas the other 3 teams in the division are projected to be like top 6 or 7 picks.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's tough. I can understand not wanting to win.
You never want to see your team lose, but this is a situation where all 4 of the NFC East teams are in position to have really good draft picks and setup. So it'll be interesting. Kind of interested to see. I'm happy that they have a tough schedule, because if they can come out of it somehow with some wins, maybe that means they turned it around and can make some noise in the playoffs. If not, they're likely going to have a pretty high pick.
Yeah, that's wild. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into it.
Yeah. And then that last game is actually probably going to be the main course. You got Baltimore at Pittsburgh. That should be a really fun game to watch, at least from a football perspective. We'll see about from a fantasy perspective, given that both defenses are pretty good.
Yeah, which is a great lead-in, because the first person we're going to discuss is Gus Edwards. Only rostered in 28% of leagues, but Dobbins and Ingram put on the COVID list that puts that makes Gus a high priority.
I don't know who else is on the team. Like, who is their?
It would be Justice Hill.
Do you imagine this is all Gus? I mean, with the way they run the ball, I think you're going to be a must play here with the offense against a great defense. But just the usage that he's going to get.
If you're trying to make that push like you are in our work league to get into the playoffs, that's a pretty big deal. You buy yourself a week. We talk about it all the time. I looked at their depth chart. I don't see any other running backs. I'm looking through what I think is their practice squad, and they got someone named Tyson Williams, undrafted free agent. I don't maybe you run some kind of wildcat stuff with RG3. We know he can run. But you got to figure it's the Gus show. And I imagine in your league, someone's going to pay up. And at this point, you don't have a lot of fab, so you might be in a situation where you just if you want them, you're going to have to throw what's ever left of your fab at them, probably.
Yeah, it seems like that's probably the move here. Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking somewhere in the 10 to 20 range. And I mean, if you're in the playoffs or pretty squarely, in there, you probably don't need the win that bad, so you can afford to pass on him since he's likely a 1 week guy. But if it's, you're fighting every game like I am here, I think he's owned in our league already, but he'd be someone that I think I'd have to throw 10 or 15 at, because you need the win, and he's going to be a guy that you can use, especially with all the injuries that we've seen this week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big one. I'm surprised he's only rostered in 28% because he's been usable.
Yeah. I mean, it's been up and down. I think people are just frustrated with the situation there in the running backs in Baltimore. But yeah, I think he's someone that you have to add. And he's probably more available than the next guy who I think I'd rather have him start, but only 55% owned is Wayne Gallman. But coming off of the bye week, he could be someone that was cut. So take a look. At this point, I imagine almost everyone is going to be unavailable based on haven't played by the time you listen to this. But yeah, I mean, maybe he sneaks under the radar for somebody there. And I think he's definitely playable going up against Cincinnati this week. And we'll see if Devonta Freeman comes back in week 13. But at that point, if Wayne Gallman's still running well, Wayne may have taken the number one job for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a starting running back, right? Like, we're getting to time where you're preparing for the playoffs and whatnot, and having another starting running back on your bench is more valuable than having a wide receiver or something to that degree. So, yeah, absolutely own him. You got Cincinnati too, not a bad matchup. Owned, yeah, like you said, 55%. So he's only out there for a little under half of you, but he's definitely a good ad. We got both the Patriots running backs on here, James White and Sony, 40% and 26% owned respectively. Got the Cardinals this week. Are you interested in either of those?
I think you have to be with the news on Burkhead, torn ACL. He's done for the year. So he was kind of the passing down guy. I imagine White is going to step into that role.
Yeah, I mean, we know what he can do when he's catching the ball, right? So White definitely quite interesting. I would definitely be looking to add him. You could probably toss a little bit at him. I don't think his price is going to jump up because of the Burkhead injury. I think that's a leg injury where a lot of people look at it and just kind of breeze over it. But
yeah,
you throw $11 at him, you probably get him. Depending on the league. Sony, on the other hand, I don't have a lot of interest in him. I mean, Burkhead gets a lot of uses at the goal line, and Sony could take up that kind of role, but dude's hurt all the time. He's not getting his starting job back. That's Damian Harris's job at this point. I just I don't know what to expect if you're looking, unless you're looking for that goal line, like Garrett Blunt, kind of role, I guess. What do you think about Sony?
Yeah, I think you probably break the Burkhead roll up for White and Michelle. And while the touchdowns are really nice when you get them, they're just less reliable and a sticky stat. Whereas I'd rather have the passing game work that White already had, which is kind of minimalized, but add in Burkhead, and he's probably going to be the primary passing down back. So I'd rather take a shot on White than Michelle, but even that, both of them are going to be, if he plays White, you're probably looking at a flex option. Sony's more of like an emergency option.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Carlos Hyde up here next, 46% owned. He does have Philly. Personally, I can't say. I mean, he had a really good week, but God, I think Carson's coming back. I mean, he's been like a game time decision for 2 weeks now. Like, he's got to be right there, ready to play, right?
Yeah, and that's the tough thing. If you have Carson, you probably already have Hyde, but maybe not with all the way the injuries were, and you weren't able to get him. He's somebody that I think you can definitely play if Carson's out. The issue is that's a Monday night game, so I don't know that you're going to know enough in time unless you can pivot to like a Boston Scott as like a backup if Carson plays. It's risky. Maybe it's like a flex play. You can pivot to a Jalen Reagor or David Moore, but you're not feeling great about it. But I do like Carlos Hyde. He's proven every game that he's been healthy and Carson's been out, he's been the man. He's been running really well. So if Carson's out, I think he's definitely usable. So if he gets ruled out on, let's say, Thursday or Friday again, and Hyde's there, definitely scoop him up. I wouldn't mind throwing somewhere in the 5 to 7 range just to have him as a good bench stash, though.
Yeah, and I guess, we're at that time of the year we need to phrase things this way, but he's only rostered in 46% of leagues. So for you Chris Carson owners out there, there's a 50-50 shot whether he's out there or not. And Chris Carson is currently hurt and is a bit of a re-injury risk. Like if he comes back, he gets hurt, and then you've lost your starting running back for the playoff run. So, whether Chris Carson's back or not, if you're a Chris Carson owner, you should be picking him up for the playoff run so you have your handcuffs stashed away, right?
Yeah, I mean, and this is a time that, probably the last few weeks you're looking if your handcuffs available, but definitely now, if a guy like Carlos Hyde is available, someone who we know gets to work when the starter's out, which isn't always the case, he's someone you got to roster. And so it's definitely more important to Carson owners, but someone I wouldn't mind stashing, just given all the injuries. We saw Burkhead go down, saw Michael Pirine, half of my running back core in our work league, given that I just picked them both up last week. They both are down for multiple weeks or for the season, depending on which one you're talking about. So there's going to be teams like mine out there that are just devoid of running back that you're picking up any option you can.
Yeah, so speaking of any option, I don't know if it's 2020 or 2008, but Frank Gore, I think he is the RB12 on the week right now. So I don't think he's going to crack the RB1 for the week, but he's close, and he's old. He's got Miami coming up, 10% owned, but had a solid week. Are you interested in your situation where you need a running back?
Yeah, I mean, if he's out there, once again, it's so weird. All of these players that we're talking about are randomly owned, and there's other guys that aren't. But most of the players we are talking about right now are owned in the league. So Gore would be someone I'd have to be interested in. Unfortunately, he's not available. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I think if he's available and you are in a situation like me where you need running back help and you need someone to play, Pirine, high ankle sprain, likely out multiple weeks. I don't know exactly what that means, but if he's not playing this week and next week, you need something to try to get you to the playoffs. Frank Gore is going to be usable. It's disgusting, but he's got Miami and then Vegas. I think he's going to get usage whether it's good game script or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I don't think I'd pay any exorbitant amount of money for him, but it costs a couple bucks if you need the depth at the running back position. Again, he's a starter. And one other option at the running back position, Tony Pollard, 19% owned, so those Zeke owners should be going out and getting him. But broke off a big play, so he had a really good week. He has Washington this week. Is he someone that interests you outside of a handcuff role?
Yeah, probably more of like a Carlos Hyde for not the Chris Carson owner. He's someone that you have room on your bench, you can stash so that if the guy ahead goes down, you got a guy that you can plug and play here for the playoff run. And Pollard's been borderline usable. Like if he's available out there, he's someone that I'd have to consider, versus a volume play that's maybe not as good like a Frank Gore. But yeah, I mean, I think he's someone that you can use. Two other kind of honorable mentions that I didn't get to fit on the dock here. That you may have seen one of them come across your screen there just a few moments ago, Steve. Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers, both available in our league here. I just picked up Cam Akers for Michael Pirine. I think both of them, we'll see what happens. You guys listening to this will know. But I imagine that, it's a three-man running back core. But if one of them goes down, the other two would probably be usable, especially, just given the injury landscape. So flex options. And Akers, I think, is one that he maybe doesn't need an injury. He, is kind of the ceiling and the potential to be able to take the role. So I just picked Cam Akers up since we are before the Monday night game, just because I've got nothing else. I've got Wayne Gallman coming off by and Mike Davis are my current running backs outside of Burkhead and Pirine.
Yeah, Akers was my guy since the draft, and I I don't know who I cut him for, but I eventually decided that I was done playing that game. It might have been for Devontae Booker just to get my handcuff.
Yeah, which is not a bad call.
Yeah, so moving to the running back position, Nelson Aguilar, Raider, former Eagle, 20% owned. He's got Atlanta, so he's got a really good matchup. Are you interested in Aguilar at all?
Yeah, he's someone you got to consider. I unfortunately, here in our work league, am in the opposite position, where I have just a slew of wide receivers. I was trying to trade one, but missed the deadline for a running back. So, in a situation where I'm wide receiver needy, I think he's totally someone that you can flex the way he's been playing. I mean, it's crazy, but he was a first round pick. He was drafted with the potential and talent there. And, he's been a little boomer bust, but I mean, if we look back, he has 12 points and then 13 points before the bye. And since the bye, he's been up and down. So you got half point PPR, 19, 0. I don't know if that's 2 targets. So he played 12 and a half, 1, and then 18 here against Kansas City. So if he gets the targets, he's someone that you can definitely use. And, it's been hard to really tell, but Atlanta seems like a really good matchup. This seems like the one where Julio's playing and Atlanta can score. Vegas is going to have to throw the ball. So, yeah, I don't mind Aguilar, at least for this 1 week.
Yeah, he's someone that I typically wouldn't be interested in because of that boom bust nature. But, if you're the outside looking in on your playoffs, you're, a couple games out or something, and it gets crunch time and, your team's not putting up a ton of points week over week, he's somebody I'm starting. Like, it's time to roll the dice and see what you can do. And he's someone to roll the dice on and see if you can get a couple boom weeks in a row and push yourself into the playoffs. With that in mind, he's been this player for a little while now, so I'd imagine you're not going to have to spend a ton on him. People have had ample opportunity to pick him up. What he did this week was nothing abnormal, so I don't think you have to pay a lot to get him.
No. A lot of the other guys here we've talked about. Pittman had another good game. Only a few targets, but had a really big play, so that's there.
Only 34% owned. I'm shocked.
Yeah, and I think he's the guy here that you got to go get for sure. We'll see. I was also high on Reynolds, and we'll see what he does tonight with Cooper Kupp being kind of injured. But I think, Pittman is the guy you got to go get. I wouldn't mind spending, 10, 15, maybe even more if you really need wide receiver rest of the season, because he's someone that I think you can plug and play rest of the year. Curtis Samuel, 50% owned at Minnesota. Kind of taking your shot there out of the Carolina wide receiver court. It's kind of different one week to week, it seems.
Yeah, he had another good week, right? He got a touchdown, I think.
Yeah, he had the good week. It was Robbie's down week. But DJ Moore and Curtis both had solid games.
Like we said, it tends to be 2 of them at a time. So he looked good. He's got Minnesota.
Yeah, and Minnesota gave up, a lot of yards to that Dallas offense this week. So I think he's a decent play. I'd, rather probably play the 2 ahead of him there. But yeah, I mean, he's probably just under Aguilar for me when it comes to playing out of those first 3 we talked about.
Yep, agreed there. Tim Patrick had another good week. 21% owned. He's cooled down a little bit since his hotter streak earlier. But, another guy that can, like Aguilar, could get you a nice boom week here and there. He's got New Orleans. So, we'll see what happens there. New Orleans defense was pretty good.
Yeah, decent baseline the last 3 weeks. 11, 8, 14. So, not bad. He's been getting the targets 9, 6, 8. So, someone that you need just a safer option. He's someone that you can likely play and what, should be a matchup where they have to score. We'll see. Taysom Hill still is a question to everybody, but.
Indeed. We got Debo up here next. Getting hurt.
Coming off the bye.
I don't even know if he's going to play. If I'm the 49ers, I really don't see the reason to play him. I mean, they're technically in the playoff hunt, but the quarterback position.
4-6?
Yeah, they're 4-6. I mean, they're technically in the hunt, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's worth adding, I guess. He's Debo. He doesn't need a great quarterback. They use him in a lot of different ways, so he could be fine. I'm just not. I'd be scared to actually put him in my starting lineup, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I have him in one, then I had him on the IR, and I don't know that I'll be able to play him his first week back, especially against the Rams. That'll be likely. They move him around, but if you have him going up against Ramsey week one back, not the best option.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and
With
we're
the
going to combine the next three.
Julio,
How's that sound? Oh,
yeah, I was going to say with the Julio injury, Russell Gage becomes interesting, but not really someone that I think you're thrilled to play. So just someone to be noted out there that, if you have Julio, maybe one of the few wide receiver handcuffs. The last two, though, Sterling Shepard, 45% owned, going up against Cincy, and Alan Lazard, first week back, but maybe gets worked in a little more, 42% owned, going up against Chicago.
yeah, they're tough. I'm out of the two, I'd lean on Shepard more so. I do like Shepard a little bit, but I don't really want to plug either of them in my starting lineup. It's almost like a toss up of who has the best record moving forward or the best matchups moving forward and go with that. But, in a vacuum, I'll take Shepard, I guess, for a few bucks. How about you?
Yeah, I think I lean Shepard just because he seems to be the one there and get the volume. And I don't know what to make of that game script. I like Wayne Gallman because, Cincy, I don't imagine is going to move the ball much. So I'm guessing the Giants win this game. And, maybe game script works in their favor. Maybe that hurts Shepard. I don't know. But you know what you're getting out of him. Lazard, is more of a I pick up and likely want to sit this week to hopefully see him get worked back in and maybe be able to use him for a stretch run.
Yeah, exactly. He's more appealing because he's more of the unknown, right?
Absolutely.
So moving to the tight end position here, just going to rattle off all four because they're all, touchdown dependent, kind of interesting guys. You got Tanyan at 46% owned, Herndon at 13, Schultz at 21, and Jordan Reed at 15% ownership there. None of them really screaming interesting matchups. Chicago, Miami, Washington, and the Rams. Are you interested in any of them as a streamer for the week or more of a long-term hold?
Not really. I mean, Herndon, I was happy to see it because we were, big on him in Dynasty, and I actually picked him up in another Dynasty league just a few weeks ago, but I think he only had, 2 catches for an Indiana touchdown.
Yeah, you can't rely
Reed,
on
I
him.
think, yeah, Reed is the guy that I think I would be going all in for if I really need a tight end. He seems to be really one of the few options that you can rely on for getting targets, being a focal point of the offense. Obviously, injury history is always there, but Dalton Schultz has a ton of competition, and same with Tanyan really now with all the receivers coming back. So Reed would be the guy I'd want to target there, but not thrilled about any of them.
Yeah, I agree. I guess it would probably be Reed for me as well because the upside's there. So yeah, I would do that. If that scares you, then Tanyan's fine. He's got that touchdown upside and is at least part of a good offense. But yeah, I'd probably take my shot on Reed as well.
All right. Next up, quarterback streamers. A couple interesting ones I'll kind of run through here for you, and you let me know what you think. So Derek Carr, 36% owned at Atlanta. Baker Mayfield, 31% owned at Jacksonville. The new hotness, Taysom Hill, who likely will be just quarterback this week. We'll see what ESPN does. At Denver, Daniel Jones, 20% owned at Cincy. And then whichever quarterback is starting in Miami, we will see, at New York at the Jets.
Yeah, you got some really good options this week. I'll toss out Baker. Not that he doesn't have a great week lined up, but his floor is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt get all the touchdowns, and he's just kind of fine. Daniel Jones, I'll toss out as well. Again, a good matchup against Cincinnati, but his floor is throwing a bunch of interceptions. Whatever. So you're left with Carr against Atlanta, Hill versus Denver, Tua or Fitz against the Jets. I would assume it's Tua. I'm probably not going to lean that way, though. It's the Jets, so it's hard to say no, but Taysom Hill is a good matchup against Denver, Carr against Atlanta, and I think I'd rather go with those guys. Like, if you're okay rolling the dice, I'd probably start Taysom Hill to go for that upside. If that's a little too scary, I would stick with Carr, and Tua just kind of is the odd man out. That's kind of how I view it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm probably leaning Carr, but I think it's him or Taysom Hill. Just I mean, I don't think it looks great for, the football team, but from a fantasy perspective, Hill's throwing the ball, he's running the ball. He's got a lot of weapons around him, so it works on fantasy. I just still don't trust it, but he's someone that you got to consider, I think. But I would rather roll with Derek Carr this week, if that was my two options, let's say.
Yep, that's perfectly fair. And finally, we got defensive streamers. We have the Rams at 63% ownership against San Francisco, the Giants 13% at Cincinnati, the Seahawks 27% against Philly, or the Packers 33% against the Packers. That can't be right. Who do the Packers play this
Chicago.
week? Chicago. Okay, there we go. So yeah, they get Chicago. Of those four, who do you like, and who are you kind of avoiding the most?
Yeah, so I'll kind of pull the Rams out because, like you said, they're 63% owned. I put them back in there because they're only owned in 2/3 of leagues. If your league's still out there, I think they are going to potentially be a league-winning defense. I picked them up in all 3 redraft leagues. Luckily,
so don't go looking, is what you just told me.
Yeah.
Don't bother.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our league, Steve, is the only one I had to start them in. I was able to pivot to like a Cleveland or something this week because they got Tampa tonight. So they are free agents, up until this game starts. But I really like their schedule the rest of the way. But if I'm just picking one of those other 3, I'll take the Giants. 13% they are going up against his name? Ryan Finley led Cincinnati Bengals here without Burrow, likely without Mixon. The Giants defense isn't great, but it's a nice plug and play if you really need to. The Packers are interesting too, going up against Chicago. I think, I'm pretty sure both quarterbacks are currently injured and questionable. I imagine one of them will be able to play, but if not, you have the Packers going against a 3rd-string quarterback in Chicago, so that could be a sneaky pickup that you may not have to pay really anything for.
Yeah, I'm with you. I take the Giants because of the Finley. The Packers are interesting. If the Giants aren't, somebody's looked ahead and they grabbed out the Giants, I'd be cool with the Packers. I don't want to start the Seahawks, but that does interest me because they bleed air yards and Philly can't throw the ball for the life of them. So something needs to give.
Something's got to give there. Start Carson Wentz and the Seahawks defense, and one of them you'll be happy with.
Yeah, so with that in mind, Will, let's get our first start-sit question out of the way. Would you start Carson Wentz against Seattle or Cam Newton against Arizona? Asking for a friend.
Man, Cam Newton. I think I got to go Cam against.
You think so? Because I'm kind of leaning towards Wentz, and it terrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you had the Jameis Winston, mindset where you get a quick early pick 6 and then get some late scoring because I think he got on the board very late. But I mean, it's a home game for the Eagles too. I don't know what to make of this team. I would rather go with the rushing baseline of Cam. But yeah, that's scary either way.
I might have to add this into our show doc because we got some interesting waiver wire out. We got Rivers against Tennessee, Goff against San Francisco, Baker against Jacksonville, Dalton against Washington.
There's some decent ones out there.
Taysom Hill against Denver. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. Tua. So maybe I'll just go with somebody else.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I mean, I've got Kyler, right? But he's had this shoulder injury. He should play, but he's also got New England. Like, I don't think I can pivot away from him, but if for some reason he misses, I'm going to be looking to that waiver wire as well.
Oh man, yeah, this is not fun.
No, not at all.
Oh well. That's going to close out the waiver show here. Will, any closing thoughts?
No, nothing over here. Everyone, make sure you get your bids in by Tuesday night here, and we will talk to you in a couple days for the start sits for week 12.
Beautiful. Sounds good. Thanks for listening, everyone. Remember, trust your board.